And that should be good. All right. With the streams connected.
Hey, Gabe. I put in the run sheet. There's a funny social media post on the JD Vance Pope thing.
Oh, okay. I got a graphic for it, just of like, it's super subtle, nothing offensive.
It's a fuck, marry, kill.
Okay, yours will be heavier then.
Fuck is a couch, marry is his wife, and kill is the Pope.
I knew this would be hard on you today, the Pope. And I'm a Catholic, so you can use me to shield. All right, let's see here.
I am also a Catholic, and so is Amy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Rochelle, are you?
The rest of us are just over here praying right to God.
I grew up Baptist.
Baptist?
Yeah, we have a rep,
Yeah, I am.
And the gray Pope and the white Pope, too.
You grew up Baptist in Minnesota?
Pope.
Yeah. I grew up evangelical Christian, right?
Okay, commercial starting.
Yep, there you go.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and sudden insomniac, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader and wearing red glasses, Amy Koch.
And I am confirming Amy's glasses are red, Rochelle Westland.
I am just fully learning that Amy doesn't know what purple looks like. Javi, what do you do?
And we are
Wrong About Everything.
Wrong About Everything.
Especially
all right. Well, I legitimately haven't slept in 2 nights, so I hope you guys enjoy your podcast. I'm just going to sit here quietly.
He's just going to snooze. He's going to snooze.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Which is what you want in a quarterback. So I will be snoozing in the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios down here in the depths of MBC studios.
We don't have anyone on the couch this week. Our new segment, Who's on the Couch? Do you want to just crawl on the couch and Brian be on the couch?
I don't know that I don't know that I trust that couch. I'm not sure where that couch has seen some stuff. But,
really?
But we are in the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios here in the depths of MBC studios in northeast Minneapolis. We have Gabe pushing the buttons for us in the other room, and we certainly hope you're watching us on your YouTube. We're really trying to push people towards YouTube, so thank you if you have subscribed there and you're watching us there. And if not, please try that or go to our website, www.wrongaboutEverything-podcast.com. Feel free to tell us how things were in 2022 when we probably last updated it. So,
yeah, if you fall asleep today, I'll just pinch you.
Just pinch me.
Just pinch.
We can do that. Also, if you get pinched and you want to sue somebody, contact our good friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or a criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Anything you guys want to talk about before we kind of jump into the news of the week?
Well, no, I mean, I was going to say Rochelle could tell us, but everybody knows Rochelle now, right? She's just regular on the podcast.
I feel like I'm pretty basic at these days.
Yeah. I like the jacket.
Thank
you. Look
you.
good.
Thanks.
Everyone should tune in on YouTube because Javier's lighting and background is amazing. He looks fantastic. Brian is going to fall asleep at some point and get pinched, and that's going to be exciting. And Rochelle has a beautiful jacket on.
And Amy has red glasses.
And I have red glasses.
Yeah, it's
a lot of things to watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
But all right, so big.
What I was referring to in my opening is, I mean, I knew Amy was colorblind, but we just had a conversation about the subtleties of it.
You didn't know.
Away.
Yeah, I don't know what your world looks like.
No.
But I think my world looks very, very
I was
different.
complimenting Amy because I'm surprised you don't dress worse.
Thank you, Javier.
If I was more on the game, I'd have something really mean just dialed up to say right there. But I don't know. I don't have the energy.
Here,
but
insert insult.
But I also
Brian.
think it's an interesting. I mean, we're not in a circle smoking the ganja. But an interesting question is, does purple look the same to me that it does to Javier? We're kind of just trusting that we all see the world in a similar way. I don't know how do they even gauge that? I don't know.
But I don't even know how they know. But we were saying you can see how I see the world because you can go online, you can Google like what do colorblind people see, and they will show you two pictures that are apparently different.
That's according to a fully sighted person.
That's what I'm saying. And like, so I look at those pictures and they actually just look the same to me. And apparently they're not the same.
They're really not the same.
So I don't know.
It was really shocking.
But you're right. How do you know that you see the same as Ro? I don't know.
Probably doesn't.
But he doesn't care. He's just
I'm
sleepy.
not that curious.
Okay. All right. Well, big news this week.
Yep. So
Huge news.
We have 3 Catholics amongst us with Gabe, Javier, and Amy. So Pope Francis was we're all in our 40s or 50s, and we've gone through a couple of different papal transitions. I can remember
JP2,
John Paul II when I was a little kid.
Longest,
but and
That was his rap name.
yeah,
JP2.
But at the time, I lived in Chicago, which had just so many more Catholics and Polish people and Irish people. So it was such a big deal down there. Not to my family because I did not grow up Catholic, but I'm kind of curious. What does in modern times? What does this mean when Francis was largely considered to be a very popular pope as opposed to Benedict, who was a Nazi at one point?
Well, yeah, I believe so. I mean, we had JP2 for a long time. I mean, I was going to look when he passed away.
The Polish pope.
And then we had the short Benedict the Grumpy.
Yeah.
And then, and he was not long for this world. And Pope Francis was a very different papal entity. He was very about the people. He often, as a cardinal, really made sure that he, was in the streets and in the and with the poorest of the poor. He really lived what he believed was the path of Christ. That the least among us are the most important. And even in his burial, he's going about it very different. His coffin is not elevated. And he's not in the 3. There's usually, I guess, 3 caskets to the Pope. He's not going by any of that. He also had is it St. Mary's, where he would go and pray before every trip, and that is where. It's actually where he went. This is interesting. So on Thursday, he went to the exact same church to pray where he would always go before he took a very long journey, and then he passed away on Sunday. And then that's actually where he will be buried. So, for Catholics, this is a big deal. Right now we have the conclave. If you've all been watching is it Netflix that's got conclave, or is it HBO? Is it Max? I don't know. But there's a lot of things that go into picking the next pope, and it's kind of it's our moment.
Before we get into the conclave, Javier, anything that you want to add to?
Yeah, I mean, I think so right out of the gate when he became pope, they shocked everyone by just rejecting all of the very fancy vestments. So John Paul II and especially Benedict was especially very high drag in their approach to the papacy. It was a lot. There was a lot of jewelry.
It was a lot of jewelry.
High heel shoes. The Jimmy Choos and stuff.
He wants to elongate his calf. That's okay.
What's that?
He wanted to elongate his calf. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes. He would eat lunch every day in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
At the and with everyone else who worked at the Vatican, and stayed in the small apartment that he lived in before. The Pope is just historically just treated like a king.
Without a doubt, they're richer than most
kings. And in the
kings.
history of the church, it really being Pope was a similar kind of power. and a similar, like it was just he's the head of state, and which he technically is still, because the Vatican City is its own state. And I think in terms of like it's interesting that he was for the American church, where the American bishopric here is a lot more is very conservative, and so there are a lot of people who are like really gunning for him, and not happy because of his perceived sort of liberalism. It's interesting. He didn't really change church dogma much, but his pastoral approach to to being a priest and to the papacy just meant that he would wash the feet of poor people, of Muslim people. He's washed the feet of a trans woman once, and so pastorally, he said to gay people, "You are welcome in the church." He didn't change the kind of dogma, but he was like sort of, it was becoming a much more accepting church. I'm hopeful that the fact that he appointed over 2/3 of the College of Cardinals means that the church will follow along a path of openness, but we'll see.
So, Rochelle, you grew up a snake handler. So, how does this impact you?
Well, I mean, I think that any leader of of a major faith, you pay attention to. And I think that like his testimony of what faith was and how he walked of who Christ was, I think is really beautiful. Like it isn't just, I was reading stories last week of how he was finding people that were unhoused and helping provide them jobs in the Vatican and making sure that people were fed. Like he walked out what the mission and vision of the church was in a way that I don't think we see in a lot of places. I don't feel like I can throw stones at the Catholic Church because I'm not in the Catholic Church, but there's a lot of mega churches that are connected to the religion that I grew up with that are not walking out the mission and vision of the Bible, and it was really beautiful to see him doing that in so many.
The first church of the slithery snake.
Okay, is that why I'm a Slytherin?
That's why you're a Slytherin. So anyway, so now the process of picking a new pope, which we've gone through a couple different times, but first of all, I have never seen the movie Conclave. I've heard it is good. A couple people told me that it's pretty injurious to the Catholic Church, but I would say,
I think that's
I haven't seen it, so I'm not saying that's my assessment of it. I've just been told that by some people. But the process of the conclave, and this is according to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, says within the first 15 to 20 days after the death of a pope, the cardinals come together in Rome to make the next selection. There are 252 Catholic cardinals, but only 135 can cast ballots because the ones over the age of 80. That's an interesting
what a novel idea.
The ones over the age of 80 can only take part in the debate but cannot vote. Cardinals hold a special mass, then head to the Sistine Chapel where they take a vow of secrecy, vote in private, up to 4 times a day until somebody gets 2/3 vote.
And then this is where when you hear, we don't know what color smoke's going to come out, this is what this is from, because once they have a pope, every day when they vote, if they don't come to a pope, the smoke is gray. Yep. And when a pope is decided, they take the ballots, they burn it, and they have a white smoke.
Does somebody have to tell you what color the smoke is?
No, I can see gray and white. I mean, it's either dark or it's white. Anyway, shut up. So
callback, Amy.
Yeah,
it was a good callback.
In the biz, we call it a callback.
Yeah. So anyway, once white smoke comes out, new pope has been chosen, and then we wait and hear who it is. And then there's always like a short list, right? There's always it is political. It's just on a very kind of small scale, but there's always talk about, is there going to be, is a pope going to come from the African continent? Are we going to get a different type of pope? Obviously, there's been a lot of memes about, we hear it's going to be a woman of color. But it's
money is on Cardinal Zuppi.
Yeah, is that where you got? We have a papal pool.
We have a papal pool at our office.
At our office,
we have my text thread with Karen and Davis and Laura Sales is we have Davis and I are both on Cardinal Zuppi.
All right,
and Laura Sales is for the the Filipino guy who is
That's who
the
I have in the poll.
The articles describe, they all say this one thing about him, that he is known to cry when talking about his childhood. He gets very emotional. I was like, join the club, buddy. Yeah. but
Is that Erdo? No, that Erdo is the
something with a
part.
T- something with a T.
Budapest. Tagley?
Tagley, yeah.
Luis Antonio Tagley.
However you say that. Tagley.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's but he's the.
They believe
that's,
he's the front runner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're like I wanna elevate it to the level of like sports or drag race.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think we need a hashtag on Team Zoopy.
Your Team Zoopy. He's relatively young, Zoopy.
Yes, I know. But how old is he?
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. Let's find out.
That was also they're like he's seen as a long shot because he's young. He's 69.
Well,
Yeah.
John
I
Paul
felt
served
much
the
better
longest,
reading those
right?
articles about my own age. They're like, oh, he's a kid.
He's a child. So John Paul served, I believe, the longest. He was from 1978 to 2005. It was really the only pope that most of us had known.
Yeah.
And he was born in, I want to see this because I want to see how old he was because he was relatively young as well. 1920. So he was 58
that's-
when he became the pope and served until 2005. Wow.
Now 69 is the young
He is
buck.
the young, yeah, relatively young. Relatively young.
I feel like in hearing those like that people over 80, the Cardinals over 80 don't get to vote. I feel like we have a compromise on our gerontocracy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we won't bar you from running for Senate or being elected. You just don't get a vote.
Interesting, but you can be part of the discussion.
It's like your Guam. You know, you can be there.
Or Puerto Rico.
Or Puerto Rico. Yeah.
sorry,
I was
Pierre.
trying not to make it personal, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know me. You know me.
You guys,
You really are sleepy.
He is. He's so tired.
I'm
He
so
can't even-
tired.
We can poke him.
Yeah.
Can't even be appropriately racist.
No, I don't have it in me to fight. So when you say that Vice President J.D. Vance killed the Pope, I'm just gonna let you say it.
Well, okay. Well, so we should tell the story. So here's what happened. Vice President J.D. Vance met with El Papa on Easter Sunday and actually tweeted. And first of all, Pope Francis has been ill. In fact, he was hospitalized and I believe in a coma, and then kind of came out of it. But they were very worried that he would not even be able to make like the trek or be out in public because he's been very ill. They had an audience, and so obviously the vice president said, "I met Easter Sunday. Thank you so much for visiting. I'm wishing you health." Because clearly his health has been a concern. And then the next day, of course, next morning, Pope Francis passed away. So he did not.
No.
I do not believe.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying he killed him.
No.
I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So and
People are saying. People are
are
saying that
people.
it's very interesting. I actually
timing.
prefer to think of it this way as like so. In my family lore, my grandmother, when she died, before dying, she waited to see one of her daughters who did not get along, and and my grandfather made my aunt go see her mother to say goodbye. All the kids were saying goodbye to their mother, and my grandmother, legend has it, family story has it, said to my aunt, "This is for all you've made me suffer," slapped her, and then died.
all right.
You know what?
That's a family lore.
So literally, if anyone has ever questioned where Javier gets his fire,
I know. Holy cow.
I think we have located the source.
My grandmother's 101, and I believe that her last words will be how we've all disappointed her. So let her have
so
it. Let her
I
have her
think-
moment. And
So
the memes.
I kind of think that's what happened. Is the Pope lived long enough? He's like, "Oh, JD Vance wants to see me." Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, it was. He did take the opportunity to lecture the vice president of the Trump regime on the plight of migrants, and the readout of their meeting from the Vatican. He also had a meeting with some ambassadors in the Vatican, and they highlighted their disagreements with the Trump regime's policy toward migrants. So it might not been of like my grandmother's slap, but I can still dream.
Yeah. Well, and Javier and I have both definitely enjoyed the memes that are out there. This is very serious, but the memes, we can laugh through sad times. My favorite one, and then we'll get to Javier's, is this is by Tyrell McGowan. It says, "Now, I'm not saying that J.D. Vance killed the Pope per se. I just think his actions raise some questions. Like, for example, did J.D. Vance kill the Pope?" No, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. But Javier, you found one that you liked as well, right?
Yeah. Gabe, do you have that one to put on screen?
I'm getting it right now, but I don't have it right this second.
So it was, y'all know the game that we love to play, Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's a Fuck, Marry, Kill.
FMK. Let's do FMK because we only get 2 Fs.
Yep.
Okay. J.D. Vance's FMK is F, a couch, M, his actual wife, and K, the Pope.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I feel, I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little bad for J.D. Vance. I mean, this guy,
well, he dropped the national trophy.
So in addition to a position that nobody wants to be in,
Right.
maybe the last person that saw the Pope, being from the state of Ohio, he also had an opportunity to welcome Ohio State University to the White House after they won the national championship.
Oh.
And if you're watching on YouTube,
awkward.
you see him, he dropped the trophy and it broke. It looks like they got some glue. But, I mean, let's just think of him as a person. We all know he died a little bit inside when that happened. That is horrible.
Yeah,
Javier doesn't care that he died, but he died.
he definitely did. That was.
Oh, please. Boo.
Yeah, I get it.
We all make choices.
Yeah. But yeah, so Pope Francis might have had a better week than J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah. Well, it's something for us to celebrate.
Yeah.
As Catholics. So.
Just kind of staying a little bit and people having bad weeks. What was your favorite part of the Pete Hegseth as defense secretary? I mean, it's not been decided yet, but we are definitely getting messages from people somewhat in the know, saying that he is being marked for replacement by the president. Has anyone talked to anyone kind of closer to it than?
No, what we're getting for the NPR had what they said was an exclusive of a U.S. official inside the Trump administration who said that they are in the process of looking for a new leader at the Pentagon to replace Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. So a couple things have been happening. So the first big thing, and we covered it here, was that on Signal, which is a encrypted messaging board, but certainly not DoD level encryption, there was a text thread between the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, I believe, I can't remember, like a whole list of officials, and a reporter for The Atlantic who inadvertently got added. And in that, they were discussing the attacks on Yemen before they happened. The reporter fully knew and had all the information. And in fact, the White House and the Pentagon never denied at all those texts. They just simply said, well, they didn't discuss war plans, which is the ridiculous defense for that kind of operation security breach. But that was kind of ignored and it's been sort of brushed over. But I think the answer lingered. And then what has been happening since is that the Defense Department and the Pentagon, there's just been kind of a drip, because and Javier and I do talk about crisis communications all the time, because they did not, I think, fully answer the question on it. What we're finding out is more information has been forthcoming. Politico, the New York Times have covered insiders from within Secretary of Defense's own cabinet or administration that have been telling stories about the last month of inside the Department of Defense, that there's been a purge, that there's been a lot of people, like it's sort of a lot of firings. And again, these are coming from the secretary's own kind of people. And then there came out another thread on Signal where almost the same verbiage that he used with the vice president, with the texts that were with the reporter in it, was another thread that included his wife, his brother, who does work for the Department of Defense, but is certainly not cleared for that sort of thing, his personal attorney.
To be clear, his brother works at the Department of Defense because Pete Hegseth hired him.
Of course.
He's not a military person. His previous jobs were in social media.
Right.
So there's no reason he would have it, and there's no justification. And it was apparently a thread that was his team that was helping him
get ready through the nomination process and the confirmation process. Right. It was like that
right.
team. And he was talking about the same things. And, so what I'll just say, we've talked about this. I've held a top secret clearance. And one, there's a reason, like a breach like this for someone in my position as an airman would have been probably a courts martial, right? I certainly would have had my clearance revoked. There probably would have been at least some sort of disciplinary action, because these kind of leaks happening put our men and women in service in danger. That is why you cannot allow the leaks. That is why it is not okay. And I want Republicans and Democrats alike to recognize that it doesn't matter whose team you are on, these kind of serious breaches cannot happen, and that the Secretary of Defense, who has served, should know better and should have a tight lid on security. Should be a given. And it is incredibly disappointing and dangerous to have these kind of screw ups. And that is it, period. And by the way, also, if just because someone has a clearance, which many of these people did not, but just because they have a clearance doesn't mean they have a need to know. There are two portions to security clearances. One is having appropriate clearance, and the other is having a need to know. So, for example, in my case, I had a top secret clearance. My ex-husband at the time had a top secret clearance, but I could not know everything that was going on with his day of his work day. I couldn't even go to his office because he had equipment that I could not know about. Because I did not have a need to know, despite having a top secret clearance. So even just a clearance does not clear you. Never mind that these people in here, in these threads, did not have any kind of clearance and had no reason to know. And the security is that tight and that compartmentalized for one reason, and well, two reasons. One, to ensure success of a mission, and two, to ensure the safety of our men and women in uniform who sacrifice every single day for us. And you do not mess around with that.
Well, the administration won't hold themselves to the same standards and examples that they will hold others. But as Republicans, we can do that.
Yeah,
and if this would have been Hillary Clinton or somebody else in a DFL or a Democrat administration, we would be chanting "lock her up." We would be doing all the stuff that everyone did back then, and we would be talking about how you can't trust the military with Democrats. Well, this is something that is embarrassing for the administration. It's embarrassing for Republicans. It's embarrassing for the United States of America. And Pete Hegseth, this is not the only reason not to have Pete Hegseth be your Secretary of Defense. There are red flag after red flag after red flag. Being a Minnesota guy doesn't give him any special regard in my world. And so this is just one more reason that I hope he gets replaced, and I hope he gets replaced by somebody who has some experience and is not just loyal to the administration, but to the actual job.
I mean, I appreciate you saying, as Republicans we can speak up, and nationally in Congress, as far as I've read, one person has spoken up. The congressman from North Dakota who represents the district that Kamala Harris won. And worth, again, like as Brian was just saying, like, this is not surprising this is like Pete Hegseth is someone who, like, in confirmation hearings, and we knew this about him. He's been a raging alcoholic. He's been a rager, and abusive to several spouses. And anyone who has to, in order to garner votes, say, I promise to stop drinking, like, maybe rethink. And worth noting that 50 U.S. senators and then J.D. Vance, breaking the tie, voted to confirm this person. And this regime has such a tight grip on Republicans in Congress that no one's saying a damn word, or one person is saying a damn word.
There were
3
senators that voted against it. There's a reason that J.D. Vance had to make a tie-breaking vote,
exactly.
because there were 3 Republican senators that voted no on his confirmation. So they were able to get together the 51 with the vice presidential tiebreaker. So, yeah, it's disappointing in so many ways.
And he's just been going. He's been saying, "Oh, this is disgruntled employees," and going after the media. Not one denial.
No, never. No,
there's not been a single denial.
No, these threads are legitimate and they're real. That's it.
Well, and what's crazy about it is, how would we know about those threads? How would
people are leaking left and right. His own people are leaking left and right.
Right. So think about who is on that thread
and left.
Who would know that thread existed? And that, like, he's being thrown under the bus by people very close to him.
Yeah.
And former staffers. You should say as well that a person who worked for him and who describes himself as a friend of Pete Hegseth left the Defense Department, and then wrote a piece for Politico this week saying that it has been a disaster.
Yep.
And saying that more shoes are yet to drop, and that he should not last as Secretary of Defense. It is. I mean, remember,
I
his
believe that person had
qualification
2
was
other
the Hoffman
positions in the Trump administration. The person that the person that wrote the Politico article, I can't remember his name, had 2 other positions in the Trump administration. This is not an outsider. This is a very much an insider. And he did say
hardcore. Yeah, he's hardcore MAGA.
Right. And he said more shoes to drop, and then then came this next text thread, and he said shoes plural. So, I think it's
time for decisive action.
Time for some decisive action.
Yeah. Moving on to Minnesota, on this podcast, we have thought over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of talked about Governor Tim Walz, celebrating the downfall of Tesla stock and then having to walk it back because of it being in so many people's investment
including
portfolios.
The state's investment portfolio,
including the state
of Minnesota.
And one of the things that people were saying is, well, this is giving sanction to people to continue. We also talked about all of the different forms of vandalism, setting things on fire and Molotov cocktails and everything else. Well, a man who has a position in the Walz administration has been accused of damaging several Teslas in Minneapolis, with damages of $21,000, but he will not be charged. The suspect, accused by Minneapolis police of causing tens of thousands of dollars of damage to the vehicles, will be sent to a diversion program and will not actually face any felony charges. And this is Hennepin County. This is Mary Moriarty. This is not shocking, but I am shocked that this person wasn't made an example of, as to say, if you do these things, right, left, or center, that there will be consequences.
Right.
And what we have found is that, at least for this guy, there are not going to be any major consequences, and that, of course, because it's Mary Moriarty, has people all up in arms, including Minneapolis Police Chief O'Hara.
Rochelle, did you want to?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, so a diversion program. So that could be a number of different things. But I think what's interesting is part of it, and this is, coming from a pretend defense attorney on TV, is diversion programs really are how do you keep people whole. I don't know that jail works for people. I don't know that going to jail solves problems. There's over $20,000 in damages, and Mary Murray talks about the importance of getting people paid back. How do you right that wrong? So if a diversion program, he goes through the diversion program, as part of that diversion program has to pay the $21,000 so that people are made whole. That's part of fixing that problem. And I'm guessing as part of that diversion program, it is if this is someone that probably comes in with a clean record that doesn't have additional items that are on their space. And so if you reoffend in the time of your probationary term, which I don't know how quick you can pay back $20,000, but I'm guessing it's a longer period of time. If anything else happens, I think that would end up triggering something that would allow a more swift force of justice. And let's be honest, if you go and sit in a Hennepin County Court or an Anoka County Court, you're going to see all sorts of dispositions of all kinds of different cases. And justice is not black and white, and it is not, dare I say, it is not fair. It is not fair in a lot of places. And I don't know, if people get paid back, if people have their property restored, what is it exactly that you're looking for?
But you are soft on crime.
I am soft on crime. I am soft on crime. That would be my campaign slogan. Soft on crime.
I 100% think Mario Moriarty is doing the right thing here. 100%. She is treating this person like every other person who is a first-time offender, and it commits an act of vandalism. The only reason this should seem different is because we think like Pam Bondi is going in the opposite direction, is saying that people protesting Teslas are going to be considered domestic terrorists. That's because the Trump regime is in bed with the world's richest man, and somehow it is a worse crime to do vandalism against him and his company or cars than it is to do vandalism against anyone else. Because and again, he's being treated like and even the Anoka County attorney who was grandstanding, saying like, "Well, you won't do this here." I'll bet you money that if you look in Anoka County, they absolutely use diversion programs for first-time offenders. And why do they do that? Because that's the reason we have prosecutorial discretion, because otherwise we'd have our courts completely jammed all the time with like kids who steal gum. You have diversion programs for precisely for that reason. So I see nothing wrong with this. I think this is perfectly fine. The only reason it is controversial for the right wing is because it involves a Tesla, and there's finally an electric car that right wingers like. So I have no problem with it. Go, Mary.
Well, I think that this is exactly why the governor wants state employees to be back in the office, because they have too much time on their hands, and the idle hands are the devil's workshop. So,
wow, that was good for a sleepy guy.
I know, yeah.
Bravo.
They're saving downtown, Brian.
Yeah, that's great. Well, just because we're not going to make an example out of anybody, just know that there are lots of cameras on Teslas.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
if you're going to walk up and try to deface it,
hey, do the crime, pay it. Absolutely,
Yeah.
I put 100% agree. Which is what he's doing. Which is what is happening with having to pay them back.
okay. Should we go to plugs? Kind of running out of time a little bit
sure.
here. Plugs.
Javier, you go ahead.
I am hosting The Moth in St. Paul, May 7th, Wednesday, May 7th, coming up at the Amsterdam Bar and Hall. The theme is only in St. Paul. So I'm really looking forward to that. So folks should come. Brian, are you coming to tell a story? Come on.
I should, and I will.
Yes,
think.
you should.
I'm still.
You really need
I'm
to.
thinking. I have been trying to think of a story, so it's something I'm considering very strongly.
There was one.
For this session for
Rochelle,
only in
who
St.
is more
Paul?
St. Paul than
I know.
you?
I'm like, there was
Only
one
in
time
St.
I
Paul?
found poop in a leprechaun hat in the Skyway. So there's,
That actually is that should be on a statue somewhere.
that happens.
Shouldn't it be? Like that just sums up St. Paul's perfectly.
That we'll put that on the T-shirts with the slogan that I am mounting a campaign for St. Paul to adopt my slogan for his St. Paul is fine.
St. Paul is
It's
fine. It's fine.
Fine.
Rochelle?
Honestly,
apparently at the
you
mock
could just
night,
stand up
yeah.
and say that. Good job.
Amy?
Okay, so you can catch me tomorrow morning, or I'm sorry, Friday morning, 8:20. I'll be on WCCO. It's the Capital Clash every Friday during legislative session. Vinny at Soccer, 7:30. Brian and I every Tuesday on the Bob Sansevier podcast. Every other Friday, I join the Al Travis Show, and I think that's it for this week.
Nothing on Al Jazeera or BBC or anything. Oh
No.
man, slow week for you.
No, call me or ring me.
All right. I will be on At Issue with Tom Hauser this Sunday, the 27th at 10 a.m. on KSTP. And I also want to thank my friends at the Minnesota Transportation Alliance who had me speak at their infrastructure legislative conference this week on Monday. It was very fun, and infrastructure is something that should not be a partisan issue. And let's build stuff, roads and bridges, baby. Spanks and thanks. Who'd like to go first?
Good.
Okay.
I can go. I'm going to change one, so heads up to Gabe in case you were going to post anything, because I'm going to change one of mine because we didn't cover this in the regular show for time. So Hope Walls was
I forgot that, sorry.
in this last week for suggesting that the Trump regime would deport Jesus, and people were all up in a tizzy about it. The reason I actually love this story is because obviously she's right. But what I love about it is that when this was discussed on Twitter, someone asked Grok. Grok is what's his fuck? Oh shit, that's our third F.
$5.
Who's that guy we just talked about?
Musk?
Yeah, that one.
Elon Musk?
So Musk's Grok is the Musk version of ChatGPT, essentially of AI. And on Twitter, there was a tweet from this group called Patriot Takes that says Grok says that makes the same assertion that Hope Walls did. And so someone asked Grok, hey Grok, in your estimation, is this true that this administration likely would have deported Jesus? And Grok's response is, given the strict 2025 U.S. immigration policies under President Trump, it seems likely that Jesus, if undocumented, would face deportation. Policies prioritize removing undocumented immigrants with over 32,000 arrests in 50 days, including refugees. As a Middle Eastern refugee, Jesus could be targeted despite being peaceful due to broad enforcement and parole program cuts. This symbolic question critiques the administration's approach, highlighting tensions between compassion and security on Easter. So I thought that was super amusing. And I think anyone getting outraged about this when we literally have done away with due process should just relax. And my spank for this week is to Congresswoman Angie Craig. First, she did something correct, which was she finally said something about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. She posted on social media this week, in this country, everyone is entitled to due process. The administration wrongfully deported Mr. Abrego Garcia, ignored a Supreme Court order, and now they're acting like their hands are tied. I call BS. It's time to bring him home. And the reason that and you might say, well, why aren't you thanking her instead of spanking her? Is that if you listen to this show before, you know that Angie Craig voted for the Laken Riley Act. And as Minneapolis City Councilman Jason Chavez wrote in response to Congresswoman Craig's social media post on this, he said, "You voted for the Laken Riley Act, which requires detention without due process for people who are accused of certain crimes. This happens regardless of whether they were charged or convicted. This is the America you voted for as a Democrat. You can't have it both ways, Angie Craig. You can't vote to literally eliminate due process for immigrants and then say, oh my God, Mr. Abrego Garcia didn't get due process. You literally laid the groundwork for this. Shame on you. And get right. There's Congresswoman Johanna I'm forgetting her last name now. I find it had the good sense of expressing regret for her vote. Say something about how you can both support that act, which literally does what happened to, like, authorizes what happened to Mr. Abrego Garcia, but then criticize his kidnapping and being held in a foreign gulag. That's what you did, Angie. That's what you did. That's my spank.
All right, who's next?
Ro.
Okay, so my spank this week is for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is saying he's going to launch a national autism registry using Americans' private health records. In the era of love on the spectrum, some of the comments that RFK has been making around individuals who have autism have already been pretty tough to endure, and I think aren't really reading the room about the love and joy that they're bringing to this country right now. But also just the idea that you're going to use private health records of anybody to gather whatever information for research purposes is just a wild beyond space. And I think that even going to the Minnesota legislature, when you've seen bipartisan efforts to make sure that private data and medical information stays private, that this is wildly out of bounds. And it really sets like dangerous precedents for all kinds of disease states. That is just a red flag warning for me, is not a path that we should be going down. And so RFK Jr. is my spank for this week. And then my thank is to the news media this week for giving me a reminder that stars, they're just like us. And it doesn't matter if you are a governor or a congressperson, specifically a governor, that crime can happen to you too. And Kristi Noem this week had her purse stolen. And so stars, they're just like us, but also some of us have $30,000 in our pocketbook, and some of us know that that is about half of what the average person makes in a year.
Yeah, why'd she have so much money?
I mean, the only person that I've ever known that had that kind of money was being arrested for drugs. So, like, true story. But I don't know.
Her life is so
I think her
fascinating.
badges got
Her
stolen.
badges
her
were
badges.
also in there.
I'm
which
just saying,
don't carry
$30,000
badges
is an insane amount of money to be having. And like I said, the average salary of somebody in Minnesota is $68,000. That's half of what that is carrying around in your pocket bag. But just
I think it was actually 3,000.
Oh,
but
sorry.
3,000 in cash.
In cash.
Well,
and all her
misread
security
it.
clearance and all that stuff.
Dyslexic.
well, sometimes I had hundreds of dollars in cash because I would get tips, from waitressing or bartending.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Guys,
maybe she's moonlighting as a stripper somewhere.
Well,
who knows?
maybe it's possible. All I'm saying is, it's good to know that she's
Just like us.
just like us.
Okay.
Like us.
Well, my only thank is going to be something nice with Pope Francis because I am grateful for the time that we had him, and I wanted to share a quote from him on death. He said he wrote this in a book on old age, which I thought was lovely, and it is: "Death is not the end of everything, but the beginning of something. It is a new beginning because eternal life, which those who love already begin to experience on this earth, is the beginning of something that will never end." And so to Pope Francis, I wish him well on his new beginning. And I very much thank him for his time in service to the church and the world.
It really was a beautiful paper.
It should be a spank for J.D. Vance more than anything.
Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, you can join in and have the spank on that one, Gabe.
All right, I will try to be quick. So, my spank, Rochelle talked. She thanked the news media. I'm going to spank the news media because I have come across something that I think is kind of a true crime guy. It's just fascinating to me, and I don't think it's getting as much play nationally as I think it should. And it is about the Zizian cult. Are you familiar with this at all,
No,
Amy?
say more.
So this is a Zizian cult, which the more I learn about it, the more kind of Manson family vibe that it has. Now, the leader is transgender, and I wonder if that is scaring people off because they're afraid of kind of getting into the political fight. But the Zizians are murdering people all over the United States of America. And I cannot believe that this is not a bigger story. They stabbed their landlord in California in January. They shot a U.S. Border Patrol agent in Vermont also in January. And there was a double homicide a couple years ago of an elderly couple in Pennsylvania. This is just, I think, so interesting to me. Obviously, I'm not making light of the loss of life of these other people, but I am surprised that I had to listen to a Dateline podcast to learn anything about it, because it is something that I think if people kind of weren't clenched up about the politics stuff, is something that would be, they probably don't have movies of the week anymore, but is something that I think would be something that, as they were traveling around the country, being tracked and sought, that it was a very interesting story, which I don't think got a lot of run or play. But so the media is spanked. Now I'm not going to be right on the.
That'll be a next Netflix special one.
Yeah, hopefully.
And there isn't a movie of the week anymore, but Netflix definitely runs down all the.
So, and then my thank, a couple weeks ago, I talked about the horrific story of the woman who killed her dog when she couldn't get it onto a plane, and I got a lot of feedback on that. Not anyone saying I can't have whatever I want on my spank, but they were just happier not knowing that happened. So I'm gonna try to right a wrong a little bit, and I'm gonna my thank.
You know what?
Pardon?
Can I just say thank you to everyone who said that, because that messed with my head. It was awful.
Well, I think we need to know about these things, so that way we can, as a society, hate ourselves, because that's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my whole damn life. But this week, my thank is going to be to Buford, who is an Anatolian Pyrenees dog who found a missing 2-year-old boy out in kind of the desert of Arizona and led the boy back to his home ranch, where the boy was ultimately saved. So on April 15th, a 2-year-old Arizona toddler was led to safety by a rancher's dog after the boy spent a night alone in the remote wilderness. And now the rancher is opening about his hero dog's good deed. And I can tell you that is a wonderful story, and we don't deserve dogs. And Buford is a very, very, very good boy.
He's such a good boy.
Such a good boy.
He's such a good boy.
And with that, I am GOP strategist, and I am going to go to bed as soon as I get home. Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Koch.
I am Rochelle Westland. I need a handle, you guys. I haven't found it yet.
I think St. Paul
It's
Karen.
not right. We'll work on
This
it.
is snake handler Rochelle Westland.
We're workshopping.
St. Paul Snake Handler.
All right.
St. Paul has to be
Alliteration.
in your title.
I know. I feel like it does, but I just can't.
Alliteration.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican heat, Javier Murillo.
And we are
Wrong about everything.
Wrong about everything.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Bye, Avi. Tell John Stiles, feel better. Do you guys need
Are we
anything?
up here? Are we up here?